What's up, Nova Heads? It's Amber Nova.
This is Chris Lights Out Lytle.
Hi, this is Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Ice Boogie.
It's the real and raw August Artois.
This is Smiling Sam Alvey.
It's Archimedes.
I'm Jack Cartwheel, the real deal, the human highlight reel.
This is Steve Mowry.
I'm Victor Henry.
Boy, Bulletproof Troop.
Billy Clark.
It's ECW Original, The Enforcer, C.W. Anderson.
This is Honest John.
Hyper Street.
Luis Moreno. And
It's Mr. Classic.
Anthony Noy. I'm Jason Punet.
The young ghost.
It's old Hattie Price here.
When I say what's my name, Snipes.
Richie Slade.
My name is Gino Rivera, the Frank Sinatra of the Spanish Mafia.
The incredible one, Anthony Idol.
This is Ken Shamrock.
The Golden Boy, Jordan Clearwater.
Yo, watch and listen.
Championship Online.
This is Alex Mars here. Hi, Richard Modest.
So, please listen to it, otherwise be cursed. Okay, see you later, love that dinners.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Championship on the Line with Rich and Alex. If you're watching and listening, I have a special guest. She is a professional wrestler from the streets of Malton, a former Battle Arts Academy women's champion, the one and only Amy Crimson. Amy, thank you for being on. How are you doing today?
I'm good. What's up, Crimson Squad? It's a pleasure. So you're doing good as well. Awesome. I'm doing good.
So glad to hear. Thanks again. When Alex and I always do our search, we're always looking at new talent, up and coming, especially in Instagram and social media. You find so many new people, especially in the wrestling side first. So it makes it easier for watching talent. But right away, when we saw your matches and then we saw your Instagram posts, you're always posting, and it's cool to see that. That's what I want to start off. How important as an athlete to you, as an athlete in your perspective, is social media, like this day of age?
I feel like it's like major. Your social media can make and break you. I just feel like that's the one thing that can basically people can find. So if you're on a podcast, like say today on a podcast, or if you're you're just an up and coming talent, promoters can find you and say, oh, they look at your Instagram, they say, oh, they look professional, they can wrestle, they could do good promo, they look like they work the part. So Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, everything is major as an athlete today, especially if you want to get known and be known by different promoters and stuff. So that's why it's very important today.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. Even as like a podcast perspective too, is always posting daily, and that's what Alex and I saw. That you have a Twitter, you have a YouTube, even searching for matches. I love it too. Like, oh, it's easy for us. All your matches on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Then we see in other podcasts, I'm like, oh, it's easier for us to like get questions. And another thing too, Alex and I noticed that recently you were on Vince Russo's podcast.
Yes.
How was that experience, and how did that come about?
So I was always a wrestling fan. So like I've been a wrestling fan since I was 8. So the fact that I was able to be on a Vince Russo podcast, like my inner child was like, oh my God, like I was kind of marking out a little bit. So it was kind of cool because he gave me so much experience, and it was great learning lesson. And it was also a great exposure because now people see me and they know that either I've been on the Vince Russo podcast or I've been on the Lucha Libre podcast. And it basically gave me more exposure and openings to either other podcasts as well as promoters and bookings in different countries and stuff. So it's actually really cool.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. Like on a podcast like that, you see thousands of people across the country, like, or even the world, that notice, oh, she's on Vince Russo's podcast. Now let's look in her social media and find out about her.
Yeah.
You mentioned too, as a kid, were you always a fan growing up, like in Canada?
Major fan. I was like one of the only girls that the guys would be debating about WWE, and I would literally go in and like be like, no, you're wrong, this is that. Like I've always been a WWE fan. I've watched it since I was 8, so it had to be around the Ruthless Aggression era. So it was, I believe I started watching in 2007, 2008, around there. So I didn't grow up with like the non-PG era. I mostly grew up watching the PG era. But when I started doing wrestling, I looked into the ruthless aggression era, amazing, attitude era, amazing. And I don't know why, but I became a bigger wrestling fan the moment I started doing wrestling. I thought I was a wrestling fan before I did wrestling. After, especially during the lockdowns, all I was watching was wrestling. So
No, yeah, like Alex and I we started watching around 2003 and 4, where like the heart of like the ruthless aggression was born.
yeah.
So I get it. Like you had John Cena, you had Kurt Angle, you had Rey Mysterio, Lesnar, you have Batista. The list goes on. Like how great ruthless
Eddie
aggression was.
Guerrero, Kurt
Yeah,
Angle, Thou Shall
exactly.
Not Be Named. Like
Yeah, that.
so
Yeah,
many.
exactly.
Yeah.
But looking at, did you collect like even as a kid growing up like the cards or the video games and the
Oh,
figures?
yes, for sure. I played SmackDown versus Raw 2006, 2007. Here Comes the Pain on my PlayStation 2. I had what was it? Day of Reckoning on my GameCube. I had so many games. I think I have like every single game except for the older ones that were like on the Nintendo 64 or whatever. But me and my brother collected the magazines, the cards, the action figures. I had a belt as a kid. If you go downstairs in my basement, it's like literally all the DVDs before the network. So that's what we're talking about. Ruthless aggression era kids, they know. I made my parents buy every single pay-per-view. We had the WWE 24 on demand in Canada. So it was all day, everyday wrestling. Like wrestling was my Bible as a kid. That's all I ever watched.
That's awesome. Same here. Alex and I grew up in California. We loved it. And now like you can see like the generation gap of like now kids like, oh, I watch on YouTube or the network or on Peacock.
Yeah.
And now we're like, no, we had DVDs. I even had some of the videotapes like 2003, which is crazy.
I had like, I think I have 2002 King of the Ring on DVD disc set. So I literally have a whole collection, like all the disc sets of all the biographies of all the wrestlers and everything.
Those two.
Even though now you can honestly just get on the network or watch it on YouTube. No, we had to buy a disc set with 4 discs of each wrestler that we wanted to know about a biography. So it was cool growing up.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Like that's the thing I think kids kind of like miss out, even going to like a video store renting a video game. Like I remember going to like getting WrestleMania 2000 and renting it.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like anymore, but that's awesome. Also too, was there a moment, from growing a fan and then, being an adult, was there a specific moment that you're like, I want to become a wrestler? Or was it like a match like, you know what, I'm going to go for it?
So this is the funny thing. So the moment I started watching wrestling when I was 8, like I said before previously, my dad and my uncle actually introduced me and my brother. So I was watching it, and as a kid at 8 years old, I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't like, and my mom was like, you need a backup. Like, you can't do that for a living. And at the time when I was growing up, the women weren't really, promoted as wrestlers. They're more sexualized. So my mom's like, yeah, definitely, you're not doing that. Like, you can get a career. And then as the years progressed, it was like the women's revolution. It was, I believe, by 2014, the women's revolution was like at its peak. And then finally, instead of being called divas, they were called wrestlers. And at the time, I was still watching wrestling religiously. I was watching Monday Night Raw, SmackDown. I believe I was in my 3rd year of high school or 2nd year of high school. And I told my mom, I'm like, when I graduate high school, I want to do wrestling. And my mom's like, yeah, whatever. You said that when you were 8, whatever. It's not a thing. So finally, 2016, I graduate high school. I take a year off and I save up. And then I go to Battle Arts Academy with former WWE superstar Santino Marella. So he's my coach. So I basically signed up for Battle Arts Academy, told him I wanted to be a wrestler, did not look like a wrestler. I'm 5 feet, look like a meatball. Didn't have any athleticism at all, but I said, I want to do this. And then he's like, okay, whatever. And then now I'm doing it now. And I've been wrestling for 4 years now. So
that's really awesome to hear. Like you hear that we're like, a lot of our guests, even Alex and myself, it's like a relationship with wrestling where you kind of forget about it. And like, I kind of forgot about it during my teens, and then I came back now as an adult, but you always loved it and stuck to it, even thinking I'm going to do it. Like, I was 8 and now I'm 17. I'm still going to do it, which is awesome to hear. How was it, when going Tino's Battle Arts Academy, how was it training? Like, give me like a day in a life, like just training with them. How was that
So in the
experience?
beginning, it was something because I thought that I could just get up and do it like
Yeah.
every other wrestling fan. You're like, oh, I could get in the ring, I could
Yeah.
do that, right? So the first day, I wasn't athletic. I didn't do any cardio. I didn't work out previous, nothing. So I had my tryout to start out with wrestling for the pro wrestling program to see where I'm physically at. He's like, okay, you're gonna do 300 squats, you're gonna do this, and I'm like, mind you, I just ate before the tryout because I didn't know what to
Wow.
expect. So I ate, and then he's like, oh, you can come back the night. I'm like, no, I'm doing it now. This is all I ever wanted
Yeah.
to do. I'm doing it now. So I'm doing rolls, and you could see that I'm like, mm,
Oh
mm.
no.
And he's like, you can do it. I'm like, no, I want to do this since I was 8. I'm still gonna do it. He's like, he started
Yeah.
laughing. So then he's like, physically, you need work, but he's like, I could see that you have the passion for it. So he's like, if you promise me to physically get into shape and everything, I'll let you be in the program. So me being a 19-year-old kid, I'm like, yeah, I promise, or whatever. So the next day you see me doing like squats, you see me like working out, bicep curls, everything. Starts laughing. But in the wrestling program, it's intense, cardio based, running the ropes, everything. It's like working out and during like the in-ring stuff. So it's like you're doing flips, athletic, cartwheels, flip bumps, everything. So it's like it's very cardiovascular endurance, like where you're using your cardio. Because if you don't breathe in the ring, you're gonna get blown up. And when you get blown up, you get injured. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
like you have to make sure that your cardio is good, that you work out, that your strength is good, and that you have a mixture of your wrestling ability as well as your character, as well as your physical aspect of it. So it's all like, it's basically a whole life kind of thing. You have to basically put your whole life to it. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to wrestle and train, but to be better, I got to cross train. I have to work out at least 6 days a week kind of thing. So that's what it's different compared to watching it instead of
Oh
doing
yeah.
it kind of thing.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Like you said, it's kind of like almost your second life that you're putting everything
Yeah.
into it. Your training and like your
Yeah.
character. During training, was there like any footage that you watched, whether it's like on promos or just even in ring style that you study?
So I'm always studying. My time off, so as well as when I'm training, I usually train 6 days a week. But in between my training sessions for wrestling, I'm usually watching like old WWE matches. So I'm watching Eddie Guerrero matches, Eddie Guerrero promos, John Cena's Thugonomics promos. I'm watching all these old promos. I'll even go on YouTube and be like 20 greatest promos, and I'll take notes. And I'll be like, okay, they did this, and this to make it a good promo. Okay, what do I need to do so that I can do a good promo? So I'll just write notes, look at my notes, and then if I'm going to do a promo, or if I'm going to like think about, okay, I'm going to change up my character, what do I need to be a good heel, or what do I need to be a good baby face? So I'm always looking at different stuff. I'm always looking at even Eddie Guerrero's heel moments, Eddie Guerrero's face moments, John Cena's good moments, John Cena's heel moments whenever he was a heel back in the day. So I'm honestly just always researching, and I feel like there's always something I can learn. So that's what I'm always doing.
Nice. No, it's also like you name some of the greats like Eddie Guerrero and John Cena. Those are like guys that could easily go face and heel, and the fans still love them, which is crazy because they could do the worst thing to somebody and they're still getting that applause.
As you could tell, those are my favorite wrestlers, and those are the
Yeah.
guys that I look up to basically get inspiration. So
yeah, that's awesome. With learning all that and then training there, was there like any specific mentor that you like had any advice, like either was from Santino or anyone else that like you still keep today, like this advice was just I'm still having
there
with
was a
me?
couple. So there was one advice I got from Shad Gaspar, rest in peace. He told me that to be the best, you got to look the best. And he said, you have to train 100% and look the best 100%. Even if you're not working out, you're at least making sure your appearance looks like you're the best. And then there was another one for promos from The Miz. So this is when I first started. And The Miz told me, if you're going to do a promo on a shampoo bottle, you're going to do the best goddamn promo on that shampoo bottle. And it literally stuck into my head. And he said, one day I hope to see you, kid, where I'm standing. And that's what literally just stuck with me for the rest of like the time. And I was like, okay, well, the Miz told me this, Shad Gaspard told me this, and Santino, aka Anthony Corelli, he told me so much advice. So I just stick with it. And I've just run with whatever advice I'm given. And there was also one from Damian Sandow where he said, if you're going to basically, if you're going to act, you're going to act like it's your life. You're going to know whatever is going on. You're going to know when your character was born, what your character eats for breakfast, and what it does tomorrow morning. So that was a couple of the advice I got from really great athletes from WWE. So you know what I mean? So they know exactly what they're doing because they've been where I want to be.
Exactly.
So that's why I take it and I run with it. And as well as Vince Russo, he gave me so much advice when I was on the podcast. So I'm thankful to have a lot of advice from a lot of great people.
No, that's exactly, you said it best. Like, they've been there, so they know what they're doing and how to get there. And like you said with Shad Gaspard, it's perfect that when they say their words, they mean it. Because when he said that, like, he looks like $1 million. Like, he looks the part. And the Miz, like she could talk about, like you said, a can of dog food, a shampoo, and he could sell it easily.
Yeah,
which is awesome. With learning all that, how long did it take for you from training to get like your debut match?
So this is the funny story. So it actually only took me 2 months to get my debut match. Because at Battle Arts Academy, we were short of girls. So mind you, I didn't have a wrestling name. I didn't think of a wrestling name because I thought it was going to take me a year to get into the ring. So I was just training. I only knew the basics. I wasn't experienced. I'm still not experienced to this day. I'm still learning as I go. But back then I was pretty much a newbie. I think I only knew an arm drag, and I think a clothesline, and I think a stone cold stunner, I think at the time. So he basically threw me in to the match. He's like, okay, you're going to have a practice match. Mind you, it was in front of kids. So it was at a kid's birthday party. And it was before the show. And he liked my match. He said, okay, you're accelerating. You're good. You're good enough to be in the match. So I was put in a tag match later that night. Mind you, I still didn't have a name. So he gave me some generic babyface white name, Amy. Okay, so I was just like, okay, whatever, that will work for now until I find a different name. So I'm in the change room, and his daughter, Bianca Corelli, she was announcing at the time. She was still wrestling. I believe she was injured or something. Something was up where she couldn't wrestle that night. So she was announcing the show, and she's like, Cassandra, you need a name. Like, you need a name with a last name. We only have Amy here. I was like, okay. So I was putting on my crimson lipstick, and she was like, oh, Amy Crimson. I'm like, that works. Okay, so that's going to be my name. So I get in there, and I'm like a deer in the headlights. I don't know what to do. I'm in a tag match. So I don't know why, but the fan in me was like, you know what? I'm just going to pull out a stone cold stunner. Pulled out a stone cold stunner, ate the pin, and then I lost. But I mean, it was a learning experience. It was my first match. Could have been better, yes. But overall, for my first match, it was a great learning experience. And then ever since then, I've been wrestling. So I only had 2 months of experience training, but I mean, it was still a good first match. So I'm not complaining.
Oh no, that's awesome to hear. Like, that's soon too, for 2 months to go out there and like you're going kind of instinct, like you said, I'm gonna do the stunner and then we'll go from there, which is pretty awesome to hear. Like, what was that reaction feel? Was there a moment where you're in there, you're like, oh man, this is real? Like, did it hit you right away, or like before you hit the curtain?
So I was coming out, and mind you, this is my first time being in front of a crowd. I never wrestled in front of a crowd. So I was kind of scared because 1, it was like a deer in the headlights. 2, this is my first match. 3, I didn't have any of my family in the crowd to like look or whatever. So I was very scared. Like, I was very nervous. And the only time I actually didn't get nervous is when I finally did a match when I main evented with Allison Kay, Casey Spinelli, and Rebel. So that was the only time I actually gained confidence because they knew what they were doing and they were veterans, and I was still scared. Like, I felt like I was going to shit my pants that time. But that was the only time I actually gained confidence when I was in the ring, because I'm kind of like a perfectionist kind of thing. So I always look back at my matches and try to see, okay, I did this wrong. Like, let me see if I can make this look better, or what did I do wrong, or what can I make whatever look better. So I was always a perfectionist, and I was never like always confident until I had that match.
Oh, that's cool. No, that's cool to hear. Like you said, you look a lot of wrestlers sometimes are a little self-conscious, but you're going back and looking at tapes like, no, I got to work on this and I got to fix it. Does you still reach out to Santino for advice here and there, or does he
Oh, I
watch your
still do. I
matches?
still do.
Or
Um,
mm,
so we always have tape review. So we're
mm,
always going over our matches and basically saying, oh, what's wrong, what we need to fix. And he always gave me good criticism. He always told me, okay, you need to do this, this, and this to be better. Next time you have your match, make sure you do this, 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 and this. Make sure like he'll make sure that we're looking $1,000,000. If our gear's not proper, he'll be like, okay, make sure you have better gear, make sure your promo was better, make sure your wrestling was better. Okay, maybe you should do this to help you cross train and stuff like that to make it look more crisp. So he's always giving us good criticism to work on
mm.
ourselves and be better. So it's always like that. So no matter what matches we have, he's always critiquing and like making sure that we're at our like best.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Like you said, that's
Yeah.
good. That's awesome that you always have someone at any moment you can reach out and get
Yeah.
that, that mentor advice. From there to now, like you've been wrestling for a while, and would there be any advice would you give to Amy Crimson, her debut that you know now? Like now, if you could talk to yourself like
Um,
from that debut, what would you
the
tell her?
one thing I would say is make sure you do some jumping jacks or maybe
Yeah.
some cardio before you start. That would have helped a lot. Being physically capable of enduring it, because the first match, I'm not gonna lie, I was blown up.
Oh
Like,
no.
yeah, because that's one thing I feel like I would have worked out more and ate healthier before I started. Well, I mean, it's everyone's mistake. We don't know what we're
Oh
going
yeah.
to put ourselves in. I would also basically tell her definitely not to wear the gear that she wore because it was not flattering. Um, that was something I wish I could change.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was 4 years ago. So, I mean, I don't have the gear I have now. It comes with experience, but that's something I would tell her. And then I would just be like, don't be so nervous. Just have fun. Go out there, have fun. It's a learning experience. It's even if it's going to be the worst match, you're probably still going to have way more matches, and it's not going to be your final decision match where people are going to be like, look at her, she's a horrible wrestler. So
Yeah.
I just wish I was more having fun and more calm, because I feel like my performance would have been better if I wasn't as shy or scared and like a deer in the headlights kind of thing.
Exactly. Well, that's cool to hear. I always want to ask that question, like, what would you tell yourself? Which is pretty cool to hear. Another thing too, you mentioned earlier with all the names that you mentioned with Miz and Sandow. Did Santino bring in a lot of wrestlers for to do seminars at the school?
Yes, and there was also a lot of guest appearances for our Battle Arts Pro shows and stuff. So we actually had Vladimir Kozlov come in, so I got to get advice from Vladimir Kozlov. We had Damian Sandow come in for Battle Arts Pro, where I got to get advice from them. We had Crime Time, Shad Gaspar, and JTG come in to do a couple. We also had a lot of guys from Destiny and Impact as well come in to help us. So there's always guys that give us advice. I also got advice from Sammy Callahan when I was helping out at an Impact show. So I've got lots of advice from many wrestlers, which is amazing because not a lot of wrestlers my age can say, yeah, I got advice from so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. I even got to have the chance to meet Tony Nese, Jack Gallagher, and Noam Dar. Like when I was training by myself in the ring, they actually helped me with a couple. They actually helped me with, I believe, my handstands. They saw me in the ring struggling and they're like, hey, you could do this. And not a lot of people can say, yeah, Tony Nese and Jack Gallagher and Noam Dar helped me with my handstands. So
that's cool.
It was a great experience. And honestly, Battle Arts is a great facility to train. Like I've gotten so many opportunities as well as so many experience and advice that I can't complain. So I'm very appreciative of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's crazy to see like so many names come to that school and you're learning so much. And even saying that, you could say if you see it on TV, like, oh, he showed me how to do a handstand once. Like that's so cool to say that. Were you ever like starstruck at a moment like, oh my gosh, that's that person?
A part of me was like in the beginning, I was like in my head, I was like, oh my God, this is so and so, and oh my God, this is so and so. Like I've met so many wrestlers throughout the 4 years. Like I can name them. Like I can have like a long list. I met greats like Rob Van Dam, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, like all these guys, John Morrison, PJ Black, like all these guys. But the thing is that because I'm a wrestler, I can't fangirl. And I have to be like, okay, I have to use it as an experience where I'm like, okay, they are more knowledgeable than me. So I have to basically ask them, okay, I can't be like, hey, can I have a picture or whatever? Because they do the same thing I do. They're just on a higher level. So I just have to ask them advice and be knowledgeable and be like, hey, is there anything that you can ask, like basically like, is there anything I can do to get myself in the position that you are in? So you just have to ask them advice and stuff. And obviously in your head you're like, oh my god, I'm meeting so and so, but at the same time you don't want to project that, oh my god, I'm meeting so and so, like, and you don't want to mark out kind of thing. So
no, I totally get it. That's cool. No, I totally get it, because even as a podcast we got some of these wrestlers, and I'm inside of me, I'm like, oh, I want to tell them like the first match I saw was this year in the toys, but you're like, no, keep composed, and they're just a person that's like you, but they've been into the big stage, and just keep it professional. Speaking about battle arts, you won the Battle Arts Academy Women's Championship. How was that feeling like, and what was going through your head when they raised your hand and you became the champion?
When they say that you get emotional when you win your title, I thought it was just like a fake thing that they say, oh, like you're gonna cry. It's actually so emotional because all the hard work, because previous, the women never had a title, so we weren't projected as like a huge thing, like we were just like an add-on and kind of thing. So the fact that my coach introduced the title, it was so amazing because all the hard work, because I'm gonna tell you, the girls work just as hard as the guys, like even sometimes even harder. So the fact that my coach gave me the torch and ran with it and said, okay, now you're in charge of the women's division, it was just an amazing experience. And then as well, because my uncle that got me into wrestling, he died a couple months beforehand, he never got to see me wrestle. So my goal was to win the title for him. So basically when I went out there, and I don't know if you saw the match, but when I started to look up, I was basically pointing to my uncle and said, this is for you. And when I said, this is for you, I started crying and getting emotional. Mind you, I was basically a heel turning baby face. So it's kind of like me transitioning. So it's kind of a bittersweet moment because I couldn't basically pander to the fans, but also you've seen me basically break character and seen my emotional side. So it was a great experience, even though I lost the title due to COVID. But I mean, I never lost it. So
you never lost
coming back for it. Coming back for it.
Awesome. Oh, for sure. We can't wait to see that. That's cool too. Even as a fan, like, if I was there live watching that, I'm like, that's real. Like, I know there's something that she's getting emotional about, and I think a lot of fans love that and appreciate that. That's why they watch wrestling. There's realness to it, even if
as well. I was 8 years old when I started watching wrestling, and the fact that I won a title in wrestling just made me emotional. It was just like, okay, I know this isn't my end all dream. Like, I know I want to win a title in WWE or AEW, but the thing is that I'm just hoping like that this isn't the end, obviously, but it was an end all moment where I'm like, oh my God, my dream finally came true. I'm doing this. Like, it's real. It's not just a dream. It's reality. So that's what made it very emotional. Multiple things, to be honest.
Oh no, like for sure. You said that's a start, and that's gonna happen. If I could do it here, I'm gonna win that WWE championship or AEW or whatever company you go to, which is awesome. Also, you mentioned, family. How was it when you broke the news to your parents, when you say, I'm going to become a wrestler? Was that difficult, or what were they thinking?
When I was 8, they were like, yeah, whatever. And then when I was 10 and 12 and 13, I'm like, yeah, I want to be a wrestler. Like, yeah, whatever. And then when it was funny because I was in geography in grade 10, and my geography teacher was like, we were basically stating, what do we want to do when we grow up? And I got in front of the class and I was like, I want to be a WWE superstar. Everyone started laughing at me. Everyone. So it was parent-teacher meeting, right? And my geography teacher was like, just so you know, your daughter wants to be a WWE superstar. And my mom was like, yeah, we know. She's been saying this since she was 8, whatever, right? Time comes, graduate high school. They asked me, okay, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm going to save up my money and go to Battle Arts Academy. And enroll and try and become a professional wrestler. They're like, holy shit, she was actually serious. So
That's
then they're
awesome.
like, okay. So they're like, okay, just be careful. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. There's no going back. Just make sure you have a backup plan. Mind you, when I first started wrestling, I didn't have a backup plan. It was just all wrestling. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to go to school. This is what I want to do. And then when COVID hit, it kind of dawned on me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got to go to school because this is literally uncalled for. Because I feel like if COVID never happened, I would have been bigger and better than what I am now. But I mean, I wouldn't have went to school. So I mean, it kind of intertwines with itself, so it works out. But then they were basically supportive. They come to all my shows. They literally say, oh yeah, my daughter's a professional wrestler. They're so supportive because I feel like they knew it was gonna happen. Like I was saying it since I was 8. So I mean, all my family, like my aunts, my uncles, they all love wrestling. So my aunts and my uncles, even my dad's friends from work come and support me, and they're like, "Oh, she's gonna make it to the WWE one day. We're gonna know your daughter and all that stuff." So it's amazing. Even my work is supportive. So it's
awesome.
It's overall great.
That's so cool to hear. Like, I think a lot of kids went through what you were saying that around like 8 or 10. I think Alex and I were telling our teachers when we were like 10 and 12, I'm going to do it one day. I'm going to try it. One day. And they're like, are you sure about that? Like, do you know the lifestyle, know this? And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't matter. I still want to do it. But you did it, which is awesome to hear. Like, no, screw it. I'm going to go for it. With that too, when we're doing research too, we notice you do judo. Do you still study there? How did that come about too?
Yes. So when I first started at Battle Arts Academy, Anthony, I'm going to say Anthony a lot, but just know it's Santino. So Anthony told me I need to cross train. The only way I'm going to be more athletic in the ring is if I cross train. So I said, okay. So I started judo. I ended up loving it. And then I ended up obtaining my green belt. I would have obtained my blue belt or probably my brown belt by now if it wasn't for COVID because of the off and on lockdowns and all that stuff, which is still going on because now we're still back to lockdown. So terrible. But other than that, I started with judo and I've been doing judo for 4 years. MMA and kickboxing as well. I'm kind of in a mixture of all of the martial arts. You see me with a submission based wrestling and my thing, and that's why you see judo a lot in my wrestling.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, one match where Alex and I were watching was Scarlett Delgado match, and we noticed that too when you went for a shot, and then you do the scramble moment, and a lot of your matches like that. That's why right away, Alex and I like it because we come from like an amateur wrestling background. Yeah. And then we see the kicks you were doing. I'm like, oh, she's doing kicks, and then she dodges it, and then she goes for a takedown, which is awesome too. Does it help too bringing that into like your matches, like that transition?
Yes. So cross training and doing all that kind of training in like actual fighting, it helps to make it look more real and like obviously it's real, but it makes it feel more flowy. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, this chick doesn't know how to wrestle. This chick doesn't know how to fight. It's like when you look, my goal when I go into the ring is to be like, I want people to be like, you know, Amy Crimson, she's a badass. This chick can fight. Like, she knows what she's doing. Like, you could tell. And like, that's what I want, that my moves just to flow. I just don't want it to look forced or choppy. I just want it to flow in and intertwine with each other. So that's why when you see me, okay, I dodge a kick and then I go for a takedown, it just looks more natural and it looks more crisp compared to if I was trying to force it by not training in a different kind of either wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, judo, jiu-jitsu kind of thing. So it just gives me more of a sparring, and it kind of makes me more, I don't know how to say it, more of a wrestling aspect and more of a competitor than just, oh, she's just pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
No, it's true. But the way you said it too, it was like, it's that flow. Because I feel like you were saying, when you bring that amateur background into like pro wrestling, there's like a fluidity to it. Yeah. So like you can tell like, oh, he's telegraphing that kick, but you make it look like 1, 2, 3, quickly dodge a kick, do the takedown. It doesn't look like you're like pre-thinking in like, okay, I gotta. You can tell sometimes a little choppy, but like you said, it's so fluid. It looks clean and authentic. Yeah. And two, you've just mentioned too, we're living in an age now of especially with women's wrestling. it's so much different from 10 or 20 years ago,
Yeah.
where it's just based on looks. And now it's like perfect timing for all these young women coming into the sport. And it's like, no, not just my looks. I could go there and kick ass, and my match would be the main event compared to the men's wrestling. How does that feel to as a female going to the wrestling business and now showing like I can do this? Like I'm just as better, just as good as the man, and even better. Like
it's finally such a good feeling to know that, mind you, you still got fans that say we're bathroom breaks, even though sometimes our matches are even better than the men's. Like I remember the match that you stated with Scarlett Delgado. Anthony Santinamorella actually told us that our match was the best match of the night. So the fact that we were basically, there was guys matches and there was the main event match for the world heavyweight title for Battle Arts. And he literally told us that our match was the best of the night. So the fact that we got told that in a world where we got matches with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair main eventing WrestleMania of last year, we had Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Sasha Banks again, main eventing, Ronda Rousey, main eventing, and the fact that they had a women's pay-per-view based on themselves. We have a women's Royal Rumble. Like we have a women's Elimination Chamber, women's Money in the Bank, women's Hell in a Cell matches. Like it's just elevating the fact that we're not sexualized anymore, and that we don't have to worry about, okay, I don't have the biggest boobs. Oh, I'm not like the best looking. Like as long as my wrestling ability's there, I'm going to be looked at. Like if Asuka's my favorite women's wrestler of all time, but if she was here 20 years ago or 10 years ago, she wouldn't even be looked at, because she's not Trish Stratus aspect, she's not Stacy Keibler, she's not Tori Wilson, like she's not the girl next door kind of look, because she's different. And that's what makes it awesome, because funny story, Toy, the guy that trained Asuka, actually trained us at Battle Arts for a bit. So I actually got to train under him. So the fact that we have people like Asuka, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair, Bailey, we have all these amazing talent, and now they're finally getting utilized for wrestling instead of their looks. They're still beautiful women, but they're athletic, they can wrestle, they can actually put on a show, and they're not sexualized. So that's what I like about today's wrestling. Mind you, people will shit on WWE, people will shit on AEW, people will shit on anything, but the fact that the women are utilized is amazing, to be honest.
Oh no, for sure. No, that's you hit the nail on the head on that one. Even as kids, Alex and I growing up, we were like, that's cool. Like, they're doing the women's thing, but like you said, they were doing like the lingerie matches, and they were doing, the ring valets and stuff like that. Like, oh, when am I going to see these women wrestle? And then a lot of times they didn't even have a wrestling background until you saw like Alita, who wrestled in Mexico and ECW and, climbed their way to the top. And then you see Trish Stratus doing just as well as her. And seeing all that now you have more of an advantage to, go to all these companies. Is there like a goal in a certain company or countries that you want to wrestle for or wrestle in?
So my major goal is to either wrestle in AEW or to wrestle in WWE. My other goals would to be wrestle in Mexico, Germany, Japan, mostly the States. So basically just travel around the world and try to get known and try to get my name known other than in Canada. So that's the goal. Try to make it around the world and travel.
Awesome. That's another thing too, that Alex and we ask a lot of the Canadian wrestlers on the show that, and a lot of them agree with it. I want to ask your opinion on it, that it seems that now like TNA especially is picking up Canadian talent.
Yeah.
But for the bigger companies, there's almost like a lack of scouting, especially like they're not going as much in Canada. They're going mainly in Japan or other countries. But Canada has some of the best talent in the world. Yeah. Even in the history, you have Chris Jericho, and the list goes on. And like, why did you stop? Like, there's so much more. How do you feel? What's your look on that as a Canadian wrestler?
Mind you, I love Canada. I love the history that we have of Canada, but at the same time, there's not a lot of huge promotions that are based out of Canada. So we have to go out of our way as Canadian wrestlers to either get noticed, get a WWE tryout over here, to try and get an Impact tryout over here. a lot of times, mostly AEW doesn't come to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to venture out and go to the States, venture out and go to Japan, venture out and go to England to see WXW, or again in the States, Ring of Honor, Mission Pro Wrestling, NWA. So the fact that there's not a lot of wrestling promotions in Canada sucks. But at the same time, I do love Canadian wrestling. I do love wrestling in Canada. It's amazing. But at the same time, it sucks that we have to venture out because there's way more promotions in different countries. But other than that, the fact that Impact is still in Canada and it's in Windsor is amazing. So there's still opportunities, but there's not as many opportunities if we were to go to Japan, England, Germany, the States, kind of thing.
I see. No, exactly. That's the thing too. They said the same thing as you. We have to go for it instead of them coming to us. So you have to come to California, New York, and across the country. Which, it's kind of a shame. I hope AEW goes and, does some shows, or even, that'd be awesome if they open a performance center. That's why I'm hoping that he, goes to Canada, opens that, and explores. Cross fingers. I really hope so. Because Alex and I, we talk about that so much. They go to Japan, Mexico. I'm like, Canada. I'm like, there's so much great talent. Like, you need to go over there. Like, look at the history of all the greats, and like Jericho, Christian, the list goes on. Like, there's your proof. But other than that, another thing I want to talk about too was sorry about that, my little notes here. Now now too, you see a lot, especially where we're from, we see a lot of intergender matches. What's your opinion on that? And are you a fan of that?
So I actually had a couple intergender matches. I don't know if they're on YouTube. But there was one. My first intergender match was with Sexy Stan Smith. It was in Wrestle Junction, so it was in a small promotion in Toronto. So that was my first intergender match. The other matches that I was in my Battle Arts Battle Rumble, where I got bitch slapped and I got eliminated. So that was fun. So I was in that. I was in multiple battle royales. Then when I went to Kitchener, I was in an intergender tag match. So I was on 2 of them. So my take on intergender wrestling, I mean, obviously there's going to be people that like it. There's going to be people that hate it. I find it's fun. I don't hate it. I find I get to do cool moves on different people, especially on different body types, because the thing is that obviously guys are going to be bigger than you, but at the same time, I just find it fun and entertaining because it's an entertainment aspect of it as well. So when they see a 5-foot girl face a 6-feet guy, it's going to be entertaining because you're like, okay, is she going to kick his ass? Like, is that what's going to happen here? Or is she going to get her ass kicked? 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to get my ass kicked, but because I'm Mimi Crimson and I'm a badass, I'm going to try anyway and try to kick that guy's ass regardless. So my take on intergender wrestling is I love it. I find it's fun. I find it's a great learning tool. I mean, regardless, no matter where you go, you're probably going to have to end up doing one. So I find it's not uncomfortable. It doesn't make me uncomfortable. I've never had to experience anything that made me feel uncomfortable. All the guys that I've wrestled with have been respectful, and I don't hate it. So, I mean, there's going to be some people that are going to be like, oh my God, you can't face a girl, this and that. But at the same time, wrestling is politics. So it's very controversial. No matter what you do in wrestling, it's controversial. So there's a lot of controversial topics.
That's true. Wrestling and the word controversy goes hand in hand.
You can do anything in wrestling, as we've seen in the past with WWE. You can do anything and get away with anything in wrestling.
It's so true. If you think, I'm thinking of all the crazy like storylines and the things they've done the last 20 years. I'm like, how did they get away with that? But they did. And people are like, oh, it wouldn't work now. It didn't. It probably wouldn't work now, but they did it. That's the point. Even if it was years ago, which is crazy.
Exactly.
And also with intergender wrestling, it's kind of like, it depends on the fans. Some fans don't like it. Some do. But it works. Like if you look in TNA, Jordan Grace was doing intergender matches. Tessa Blanchard, who became the men's heavyweight champion, which was awesome. And there's like this legitimacy because, like you said, oh, she's 5'3", she's smaller, she's facing Brian Cage, but she makes it look so real. Where like she could kick his ass. She's just,
But it's not like it's the first time we're seeing this. Back in the 90s, we had Chyna versus Jericho, Chyna versus Jeff Jarrett. We had Chyna in the Royal Rumble. We had Beth Phoenix in the Royal Rumble. We had Karma in the Royal Rumble. We had Nia Jax in the Royal Rumble. So it's like, come on, like it's not like you're not going to see it. It's going to pop up eventually. We had Randy Orton, RKO, Bear women's wrestlers. So it's like,
oh yeah,
again, people have their view on things, which is respectable. Everyone has their own opinions and everything. But at the same, I just find it enjoyable. I find it funny to watch. I find it entertaining. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, compared to some of the storylines that you could be put in, I would rather be in an intergender match than in a sexualized storyline. So I mean, it's better than getting sexualized. So I mean, I would take an intergender match regardless.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree. And that's what you said. Even it's like a perfect metaphor would be like wrestling with ice cream. There's so many flavors: chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. You might like a lucha match. You might like an intergender match, or a steel cage match, or technical, mat style wrestling. There's so many, and it's funny. Still, you still have these fans. Even as a fan, and you as well, you might even have like these debates of other fans. No, hardcore wrestling is the real thing. I'm like, no, I like mat wrestling, but we're still all together sitting in this room and watching, a match, which is so
there's
awesome.
like multiple match types as well that you can debate. Some people like the Punjabi prison match. Others don't like the Punjabi prison match. Some people like blindfolded matches. Other people don't like blindfolded matches. Some people love the Royal Rumble. Others hate the Royal Rumble. So it's like, it's basically a debate. As a fan, it depends on your taste in wrestling. Some people would love, like back in the 90s, some people would love WCW. Other people can say WCW was terrible, as well as people could say, oh, back in the 90s, ECW was amazing compared to a person that doesn't like hardcore wrestling. So it honestly depends on the opinion of the fan. To be honest, that's in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. And like you said, any kind of style that's if you're a fan going into it, you're gonna find your style.
Yeah.
Whether it's like the rock and roll wrestling or the rap of wrestling, you're gonna find that style that suits you, which is awesome. Another thing too, I wanted to talk. Are you now even still as a fan? What is your preference? AEW is doing so much different things compared to WWE with the lucha style and then the intergender wrestling. Is there a specific wrestler now that you watch currently specifically, or a style that you're like a huge fan of?
So I'm mostly a huge fan of Japanese strong style, because I'm kind of like a Japanese strong style and New Japan, like kind of like North American strong style. So what happens is that I like to have a mixture of both. So I like to watch Japanese strong style, so like Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and all of them. But I'm also a diehard WWE fan as well. So I kind of dive in, watch some of the indie matches, New Japan, as well as Ring of Honor, as well as AEW and WWE. So I just love wrestling in general. Like it doesn't matter what company, like I'll just sit and watch it and just take notes. Like it's just at this point for me, I'm not really watching it as a fan anymore. I'm just watching it for notes. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Maybe I could do that. Or, oh, this is cool. I can incorporate this. So I just watch it as knowledge now instead of a fan, which sucks. But at the same time, it's still cool.
That's awesome. No, it's true. I mean, now, even as a fan too, that, WWE might get, some heat, especially lately. Some of the fans don't like it as much. They're heading towards TNA or Impact Wrestling or AEW. But I tell everyone, you at one point were a WWE fan. And I'm sure you still look at it. It's hard to ignore WWE.
Odds are, if you got into wrestling, it's because of WWE.
Exactly.
Every single wrestling fan got into wrestling because of WWE.
Thank
so
you.
It's just it's just common knowledge, because before AEW it was WWE, before Impact it was WWE, before Ring of Honor WWE, and before New Japan, like every single wrestling promotion WWE. So it's like, even if you said WCW, WWE was still there before WCW. So regardless if you were a wrestling fan or you started late or you started early, odds are you were first introduced to WWE. No matter how much you hate it.
Exactly. And I remind that to them, like, oh yeah, I'm like, come on, like Daddy brought you, to become a fan of wrestling, which is awesome. We're about to close out the show pretty soon. I just want to say thank you so much for being on and reaching back to us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, as long as I could be and help you guys with a podcast and obviously talk to you guys and have a conversation, I'm down for it. I love communicating with people, so it's awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you. Especially too, like I could relate because we're part of the same age group, so we could, talk about even as a fan. And it's awesome to hear like
Yeah.
8 years old. I loved it ever since then, which is cool to hear. Another thing too we do before we close out the show, Alex is the mastermind, my co-host of this. These fun questions he created. Is it just for the fans to get to know you a little bit more? Is that cool if we go over them?
Yeah, sure. No worries.
Awesome. Awesome. Question number 1. What is your favorite movie of all time?
White Chicks. White Chicks is my
Oh.
favorite movie of all time. It is hilarious. I don't care how many times I watch it. I will die of laughter each and every single time. I could watch it 150 times. That or How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Nice.
Those two are my favorite.
That's so cool. Yeah, White Chicks is awesome too. With Terry Crews, like he steals the show, singing
Yep.
what is it, 1,000 Miles.
Yep.
That will always it's so awesome. It's so timeless. Awesome. What is your favorite TV show?
My favorite TV show has to be either The Office or Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Those two
Nice.
shows, hilarious. As you could tell, I'm a goofball since of all the things that I like is comedy. So those two are my favorite. Brooklyn Nine-Nine has to be on the top. It's hilarious.
That's so cool. No, Alec and I, we love those shows too. Office, Seinfeld, and all these other sitcoms. This is another thing I would like to ask. What is your favorite and your least favorite character of Office?
So my least favorite character is Dwight.
Oh shoot! Wow.
Dwight, I don't know. Dwight just rubs the wrong way out. I don't know. I love Jim and I love Michael. Those are my two favorite. So of The
Whoa,
Office.
that's cool. Yeah, that's the first I've heard that because usually people would say like Toby or Phyllis or even.
Well, I don't like
Oscar.
them either. I don't like them. Like Dwight, kind of like I like him, but then sometimes I don't. So then it's like a mixture. But Jim and Michael, I love. They're hilarious.
That's awesome. No, I get where you're coming from because Dwight was cool in the first few seasons, and then he kind of went over the top, and I
Yeah.
can see maybe it'd be a little bit annoying, but awesome. Third question: favorite music or artist or band of all time?
So favorite band would be Red Hot Chili Peppers. My favorite artist would be Ed Sheeran or The Weeknd. And my favorite type of music, it's a mixture. So I like mostly everything except country. But then there's that one rap country song, I think Broadway Girls, that is really good. So then now I'm like thinking to myself, okay, what kind of genres do I like now? But definitely not full-blown country. You won't see me singing country songs. So Crimson will not be singing country songs. So I mostly go towards trap, rap, gangster stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's cool. I think a lot of us are like that. Like we don't like country, but it's probably that one song that would squeak by. But other than that, do you have a favorite song from The Weeknd or Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Mostly my favorite song from Ed Sheeran would have to be either Dive In or would have to be Perfect or Thinking Out Loud. Mostly Ed Sheeran's all his songs. I love all his songs. And The Weeknd, every single song he makes is a hit. Like I don't think there's not been one song I did not like from The Weeknd. So The Weeknd comes on, Amy Crimson's gonna be belting it out. So
That's awesome. That's true. Like, how could you be a hater? I think at first a lot of people are like, he's okay. And now it's like, if you look how many hits and how much success he has, like you have to at least like one song from him, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Another thing, do you have a favorite sports team?
So my favorite sports team would have to be FCB Barcelona for soccer. For hockey, it would be Toronto Maple Leafs. And for the MLS, it would be Toronto FC, Toronto Raptors. So yeah.
Awesome. No, nice pick, especially the Raptors, winning their championship not too long ago, which is awesome. Do you have a favorite meal?
Favorite meal is tacos. I love tacos or anything spicy. So that's my favorite food.
Is there a specific taco, like taco, carne asada or chicken?
Oh,
or
everything.
Shrimp taco? Everything. Awesome.
Anything anything you could put in a taco, I like.
Awesome. Put cilantro, the guacamole, everything.
Except for cilantro and onions. I don't like.
Okay.
No, not for me.
No worries. Do you like pico de gallo?
I like the pico, just not the onion. Ugh.
Yeah.
Girl.
I the same boat with you. I understand. Nice. Do you have a favorite video game?
Oh, now this is where it's gonna get a long list. So I have
Okay.
multiple. So I like COD, I like Warzone Pacific, I like Vanguard, Cold War, I like Resident Evil, all the series. I like Assassin's Creed, Rocket League, um, Forza, Need for Speed, FIFA, wrestling. The list can go on. I could be here all day. I usually just play Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. So that's something everyone
Oh
didn't know
shoot.
about me is I'm a huge gamer, always been, and always will. And I like Mario Kart. So anything that
Nice.
has to do with shooting and zombies and racing, I'm good. I love it.
That's awesome. No, I love Mario Kart too. I was just playing it over a friend's house a couple days ago. It's so timeless. Like I was playing it in second grade and now playing it
Yeah.
in my 20s. Like it just never goes away. So you have the PS5 and Xbox?
Yes.
That's cool. That's like, I don't know how it is in Canada.
And the
We're from
Switch.
California.
Yeah.
Oh
And the
shoot!
Switch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it the light or do you have like the?
I have the light. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have one too. That's awesome. Though it's so. Was it difficult getting the PS5 in Canada? Because we're from
Um,
California. It's so hard to get one.
So me and my brother were actually in line. We woke up early. We downloaded the app and we waited in line just to get the Xbox and the PlayStation. It took us a month to get it, but we both like my brother got the PlayStation, I got the Xbox, but we just switched. So whenever we get bored, we're like, okay, whatever games you want to play on the Xbox, okay, I'll play on the PlayStation because there's different games. So we just switch, mix and match. So we were
That's
lucky,
cool.
thank God.
Nice. No, it's so hard to get a PS5, especially here in California. There's people in lines trying to get that. That's so
See,
cool.
we didn't even have the option of buying it in store. We could only get it online. So the first week that it launched, everything was sold out online, sold out. You couldn't even like look for it. It would like the website would crash. So
Oh my
that's
gosh.
how bad it was. So me and my brother woke up early at 7 o'clock in the morning. We're like, no, we're gonna like camp it out. We're just gonna like keep refreshing it. And then we got lucky and we paid for it and it was like, yes.
That's that's when I refresh. Like you just constantly. I know how you feel, just waiting for it, and it hurts too because I've been in a moment where I'm buying a game or even like a wrestling figure when you refresh and
Yeah.
it says in your cart and then it's empty in your cart when you're about to check out. It's like so
That was
heartbreaking.
when I wanted to buy the Eddie Guerrero Funko Pop and I couldn't get it because it got all
Oh
sold out.
no! Oh no! Oh, I didn't know you like. So do you collect a lot of Funkos?
Yeah, so I actually collect a lot. I only collect the WWE ones. Go figure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have like John Cena Thugonomics, I have Stone Cold, I have The Rock, I have Oscar, I have Mr. T, I have all. So I basically collect Funko. I'm a very big nerd, as you guys can see from this podcast. Video games,
Totally
wrestling, Funko Pops, and I like Marvel and DC and all that stuff. So
That's so cool. No, we're Alex and I are the same position. A lot of fans probably hearing this are the same boat as you, especially if you hang out with your friends. They're like, "All you like is wrestling. All you like is mixed martial arts and video games or Funko Pops." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I like. Like, so what? Like,
I'm
what's wrong with
sorry.
that?" Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm a nerd, I guess. Like, I love it. As you can see, of all the figures behind us, like it's
Yep.
just, yeah, like I can't stop collecting. Another question. Outside of wrestling, is there a hobby you like to do?
So outside I actually like to draw and paint. But majority of my paintings and drawings are wrestling based.
Yeah,
so
that's so cool.
so it's basically like I just draw, but then I end up drawing like my favorite wrestlers and like stuff. So like there's paintings of like Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, all of them. So majority of my life is basically wrestling. So when I'm not doing wrestling, I'm either watching wrestling, drawing about wrestling, or playing wrestling video games. Or I'm reading about wrestling, or I'm on social media and watching highlights about wrestling. So
Yeah.
yeah, overall, it's just a loop of wrestling.
That's so cool. Even now, like in my phone, like even music, I probably have a couple of wrestling entrances, like Seth Rollins
Yep,
or an
exactly.
Asuka.
When I'm working out and I'm going for a PR and I'm going for a deadlift, I'm listening to Triple H, Here Comes the Game, his theme song. Or I'm listening to Viva La Raza, Eddie Guerrero's theme song.
Yeah.
Or John Cena, My Time Is Now. My ringtone is a wrestling theme song.
That's so cool. That's really good. Like, even now, too, I can so relate to this because even now, like, we just passed the holidays. You're seeing families, and everyone's dressed up or going to people's houses, and Alex and I are coming over with like wrestling shirts. And my aunt and my mom's like, "Do you have anything else besides a wrestling shirt?" I'm like, "It's new. I just got it like yesterday." Yeah,
My
that's
mom
like
didn't know what to
yeah.
get me for Christmas. She got me wrestling mugs. She got me wrestling Funko Pops, wrestling T-shirts, everything. I told my mom, anything wrestling, I'm happy. Just give me that. And true story, it was Christmas, and my phone went off, and I'm the only one that loves wrestling, and all you could hear was John Cena's theme song from my ringtone. So, and they just look at me like, really,
No, no.
you're. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, what's the problem? Like, I totally get it. Even now, like Alex and I, with Christmas, we gave each other gifts, and I gave him like an AEW UK ring, and he gave me like Stone Cold wrestling socks. He's like, "You just always wrestling, you guys." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm always wrestling and martial arts and everything else." Like, how can you not love it? Like, once you're a wrestling fan, you pretty much always won.
Exactly.
With John Cena, do you like the Thugonomics theme song, his original one? Do you like My Time Is Now, his current theme song?
Both. I like both because they're both really good. So when I'm debating on like when I'm working out, I'll switch between the basic Thugonomics or the Time Is Now. So I'll literally just go on YouTube and be like wrestling theme song mix, and I'll literally have my full workout with wrestling theme songs because they're pretty good. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
Or
really
either
good.
Edge's theme song is really good too.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. I remember that one too, and I used to like growing up what was it? I think it was a Scotty Tuhati entrance song. It was like Rikishi. Those I'm like, they're so beat. Like, how do you not like it?
Right.
So cool. Another next question. Do you have a ritual you like to do before you enter the ring?
So every ritual I do is I usually pray. So I usually pray for myself and my opponent, and hopefully that everything goes well, that we don't get injured, there's no injuries or anything, and that I just pray that it goes well. So for those who don't know, I kind of have Bible quotes written on the bottom of my shoe, like on my feet, and just like a couple Bible quotes that I make sure that I'm safe and my opponent's safe. So those are the rituals. Or I usually like jump around and like basically like hit my chest to like get all hyped up too, so that I can be the character that everyone loves. Or I'll do like a couple push-ups or something just to get all like so those are my rituals that I do before a match.
Nice. No, Alex, another thing too, Alex and I can relate. Even growing up like amateur boxing or wrestling and jiu-jitsu, we always do a prayer, and they ask us, "What are you saying?" Like, "Oh, just as long as I'm safe and my opponent's safe and we're having a good time, I'm happy with that." I want him to walk home safely. I want to walk home safely, and that's all I want, and I'll be happy with that. So I totally relate to you. That's all that matters. Yeah. Awesome. Last I think we answered this one earlier. Your favorite wrestler growing up was Cena, right? And Petty Girl.
Yep. And Asuka's my favorite women's wrestler. And then there was also Victoria. I always looked up to Victoria.
People, I feel like, almost forget about her. We talk about so many other podcasters, like all-time greatest women's wrestler. I'm like, people forget about Victoria, Gail Kim. Like, there's a list goes on, and so many in-ring wrestlers. She was so good. I'm so glad she came back recently with the Royal Rumble not so long ago.
That's one of the matches. Like, that's one of my matches I wish I could have. Like, one of my dream matches to either be with Victoria or Asuka. One of the two. So fingers crossed. Hopefully I get booked for that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no. I hope so, too. They're always, especially Victoria now, she's touring so much. I've met her a couple of times in California, so you never know what can happen. Like you said, fingers crossed. Last but not least, if you could have a match with someone that isn't a wrestler, it could be a celebrity, an athlete, a fictional character, video game, anybody, who would it be?
Oh, Kim Kardashian, because I hate Kim Kardashian. I would just want to. I would just
awesome.
I would just put her in the code red, or like put her in the Michinoku driver, and then just hear her cry, and then like, and then like,
oh my gosh, 1, 2, 3. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm visualizing it. I'm like, yeah, it'll happen pretty quickly. That is so cool. No, I can see that, especially now with like the whole drama. It's like a soap opera with Kanye and the whole mess in the media. I can see why.
Like, Kanye ain't gonna help you now. Put her in a Michinoku driver.
You tag her. He tags you in, and you just go in there and just submit her. That would be so awesome. Awesome. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show. It really, means a lot for us. I had a good time talking about, as a fan, wrestling. It's just awesome. Really, really thanks again.
No worries. It was nothing. Like, obviously, like, I have the time, and like, I do enjoy doing this podcast to like basically like talk and like get my story known. And honestly, it was a pleasure being on here. So no
Oh
worries.
yeah. Oh no, thank you. For the fans listening, you gotta follow her. One more thing too before we let you go. For someone that's listening to this and going to the same path that you pursued and now living your dream wrestling, is there any advice that would you give to someone that wants to get into business and wants to become a pro wrestler?
I would say do it. It's been the best decision I've ever made in my life. What's the worst that can happen? It's either you can sit and like basically be like, what if I did this? What if I could have made it? What if I tried? Try your best. The only advice I would give is make sure if you're trying to get into the business, be physically capable of doing it. So make sure you guys work out and make sure you guys know what you're doing and make sure that you can do it safely. I would say work hard, try to think of a character, and basically try to be 100% into it. If you're going to do it, be 100% into it, because it does take a lifestyle, and it is a lifestyle. So it takes your whole life commitment. It's not just a side thing, unless you want it to be a side thing, then that's fine. If you want it to be a hobby, but if you want to make it to the WWE, you have to work and you have to make sacrifices, and it's going to have to be your life. Your life is going to have to be sleep, drink, wrestling. Like that's what it is. Honestly, that's what I don't really mind, because I love wrestling. So it's worth it for me. But there's a lot of sacrifices though.
Oh yeah. Oh no, for sure. No, you said it best. When you said you train 6 days out of the week, just nonstop preparing. Like you said, you can't have like one foot in and one foot out of the door. Like, no, it's really awesome advice. And that's another thing too. Like you mentioned, being physically just ready and mentally ready before training, which a lot of people kind of, like you said, just want to go in and start doing moves. Like you got to be somewhat physical. There's a lot of stories we've had. First day doing 200 push-ups, doing 100 jumping jacks. Like I wasn't even ready for that. Like, no, there's cardio in there, which is very true.
Yeah.
So that'll do it. Again, thank you so much. For the fans listening and watching, if you want to just tell us where they can follow you, your social media, and any events coming up.
So I should be coming back in ring in May. So fingers crossed it doesn't get canceled due to the lockdown or whatever. So I'll be my in-ring return in May. So stay tuned for that. Like you said in the beginning of the podcast, I'm very easy to find. If you search on my Instagram, you should be able to find it, Amy Crimson XOXO. My Twitter, Amy Crimson XOXO. I have a Facebook page, Amy Crimson. And if you guys want to check out any of my other podcasts, especially with Vince Russo or any other ones or any of my matches, all you got to do is search up Amy Crimson. I should pop up on YouTube. Pretty easy to find. So that's all my socials.
There you have it. No, very true. Type in her name in Google and all your social media will come out and easy to find and follow you. And you're doing disservice if you don't look up her YouTube, Instagram, and follow it. And because that's all wrestling is about, being a fan and supporting young wrestlers like yourself. So thanks again. Of course, thanks again for being on the podcast. For all the listeners that watching, listening with YouTube or Apple Podcast, thanks again. There you have it for Championship Online podcast. I hope you guys be safe, and thanks for listening and watching.